teams.
Yeah.
Building teams, finding the right people to do the right things. They have the ideas, and it's just like that's like entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
It's like you put systems in place, and you're not necessarily doing it. You're just good at building systems, leading people, motivating people, finding the right people. And then there's the people that they come from being an employee into business, and then they keep that employee mentality. So they have to do everything.
Yeah.
And they don't trust anybody. And it's like their way is the only way.
Yeah.
And then they get stuck in their business forever.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's interesting.
I'll be honest, I'm battling that a little bit myself. I need to clone myself. Yeah. It's not that I don't trust people. It's just simply like for speaking wise. No one's gonna go speak for me. That's not doable, right? Also, the home space that I was telling you about, doing everything from home. That was like one of the main things I miss about having my store. That if I need to bring somebody in, I can bring somebody in, and if they don't work, they don't work. And it's just home's different. I'm not gonna, have to bring people in and out of my home with my babies and stuff like that, because I don't want to disrupt them more than I already have from having a home-based business. But the garage thing, I think that's going to be different. And then even in the future, like the plan is, I'm thinking about maybe, building a bigger shop, or building or buying a commercial property out close to where we live if one ever comes available, sooner than later. And then you can start building a team out, right? Like if you have that place. But, the transition from just doing the things to myself has been great up until this point. I might have to work a bit harder here and there, but everything's pretty rapidly growing. And now we're getting to a place with all the growth that I think it's either sink or swim if I don't print somebody.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah.
Because you only got 24 hours.
That's right.
And once you're using most of it, now it's like,
what do you do?
You got to grow, you got to expand, you got to.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you kind of a perfectionist a little bit?
I'm not.
No?
I'm not.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, that is a good thing. Yeah. Like I am about certain things. So like, let's say like clothing wise, right? Like, so if my screen prints aren't, extremely great, like if they're brittle or whatever, I mean, I don't always like that, because it's a brand, right? You want to stand up for a brand, right? I used to be a perfectionist when I spoke. So if I stumbled or if I hiccuped, I would just be so mad at myself, like after I spoke, and I just would run it in my head over and over again. Like, man, how many times did I like hiccup? You know what I mean? Now I just know that like if I hiccup, it's okay. It's not the main part about me speaking. It's about the message and about the the lessons I want to share with people, right?
So how did you come to terms with that?
I just started to understand like that the meaning behind it, the intention behind it, the message I'm sharing is more important than me stuttering once in a while. Right. And I realized it's not, people don't care if I stutter. Quite frankly, they almost prefer it, to be honest.
Yeah.
I've had
more human.
Yeah. So I've had engagements where I haven't stuttered. And it's not like I try, to stutter or not. Like I do my best to speak smooth, right? And clear and concise. But like some of my engagements I've had in a row, I'll go to one where I don't hiccup, I don't stutter, I don't pause, anything. It's as if I was doing it for 1,000 years speaking publicly. Like it was just like I could train somebody, to do that as an art kind of thing. And those are some of the times where it's like no one comes and talks to me afterwards, because you almost have a barrier between yourself and everyone else in the room now, because you're not human, because you spoke like a machine.
Yeah.
I've had that experience where the next engagement, I kind of hiccup, I stutter on a couple things, whatever words I'm trying to get across, whatever it is. And then like I have, let's say 20 people come talk to me and say, enjoy your message about this. Thanks for sharing this. And it's like, what's the separation? And I started looking at it. It's like, well, you almost separate yourself, like you said. You make yourself inhuman, when you don't
too good.
It's weird to say that. So now I'm just okay with whatever comes out. If I, pause for a second too long, it's okay. The people who I speak for, the purpose is to make a difference, And if people don't like that, well, maybe I'm not their best speaker then either. So, and that's okay too. I mean, I've spoke 10 times publicly in the last 2 weeks, so I'm not afraid to not be able to do what I do now anymore. That's a big part of it, I think. Yeah. The fear of like not being able to continue. I think. Because I now know I'm going to get called or I'm going to get emailed. And it's not a arrogance thing. It's knowing the value I put into the world with that. And so that's where that's at.
So how did you, people are coming to you now.
Yeah.
You're at a stage where people are contacting you, or are you still reaching out a little bit as well?
Quite frankly, I haven't reached out in somewhat almost a couple years, to be honest. Wow. Most of the time, actually. That's awesome. Yeah. That's a gift, and the funny thing is every time I've tried to go and cold call people and send emails and stuff, hey, I'm this guy, if you're ever interested, it just doesn't feel right to me. And you know what? It comes off probably not feeling right to them.
Right.
And so, but on the other turn, I'm almost not able to answer enough emails and phone calls to book enough, which is incredible on the other side of things, right?
Yeah, that's a good problem.
That's a good problem to have. There's a lady that reached out to me last week, and I just told her, I'm sorry, I drove like 2,000 kilometers this week alone, and she's like, well, I'm happy you're busy. She's like, I'll give you a call next week, I promise. Because I missed messaging her, unfortunately. Yeah.
So what was like the best, I guess, route to make that happen? Was it like Instagram? Was it like, did you get like start doing videos and posting those? Like, when did people start reaching out to you? When did people start like knowing who you were, I guess, to reach out?
I'll have to be honest. It's just accumulation over enough time, I would say. Yeah. Just partnerships, relationships that I've built over the years. It just seems to really funnel all together at, one center point now. And it's an amazing point to be at, because I now know there's not enough time in the day, like we were just talking about, enough hours in the day to do everything you want to do. And that's an incredible feeling, because the thought of, scarcity as an entrepreneur can definitely be there for a few years, and it can always be there a little bit too. And that, to not have that scarcity mindset about being able to go do what you love doing and continue doing it for how you take care of your family, is an incredible feeling, man. And that's where I'm at right now. Like there's no scarcity mindset about speaking anymore for me.
Right.
Yeah. Out of curiosity, are we on this podcast?
Yeah, we're. It's funny because, Shaylin Fox.
Yeah, I know Shaylin.
So we just had a podcast.
Yeah,
and I always do that. I just started.
Yeah,
and I never told him either.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's looking at his phone. He's like, "It's 7:30. Are we starting this?" Or I'm like, "Man, it's been on for like 40 minutes already."
Fair enough. I love it, man.
Yeah, I like to keep it casual.
Yeah.
Just like get going and but I guess why don't we just take a second and I'll let you introduce yourself.
Sure.
And also like introduce you, but I don't want you to talk about what you do for a living. So who are you without that?
My name is Cody Demerais. I'm a proud family man, proud Métis man.
That's awesome.
And a proud entrepreneur.
And what led you to entrepreneurship?
Quite frankly, I learned early on in life that you can work somewhere your entire life, and one day it can all go away. And so that story basically relates with my mom. My mom worked at Weyerhaeuser in Prince Albert for about 28 plus years. She was one of the first females to work on the floor with nothing but men. She had to go through a lot of stuff being one of the women, basically, right? Sexism, whatever it is. But she stuck through it, stayed with it. It was one of her like first jobs out of high school almost. And she stuck with it up until she was, close to 60-ish, I think it was. And, 28 and a half years working at a company. One day she went to work one day and came home with a letter basically saying everyone thanks for your years of service, but you're going to have to go and find a new place to work. And man, that changed our whole trajectory of life when I was 11. Right then and there, I realized there's no guarantees. There's no permanent jobs. No matter how bad you want it, no matter how bad your family depends on it, there's no permanent placement of work unless you make it yourself. Now, some people might argue that fact, for sure. But quite frankly, I think I've always been also a little bit of a risk taker. Before I learned how to channel it into business, wasn't always the greatest asset of mine. But man, I think I just loved everything about business since I was a little kid as well too. So like when I started working part-time to start earning some of my own money to afford like sports and clothes that I wanted to wear, cell phone, whatever I wanted when I was a kid. I was shortly after my mom lost her job at Warehouser. So I realized, I have to do something. I have to be able to contribute because my mom's worrying about paying bills, mortgages, groceries. I got to do something to help. I can't put this all on my mom's weight or on shoulders. I remember thinking that being 11. And so I really started to, work for my mom's boyfriend at that time, cutting grass, taking care of people's yards. But then I realized what can come of hard work for yourself. What can come when you chase your own ambitions, no matter what age you are. And I don't know. I think it's also always been ingrained into me to maybe want to start a business one day. So like my biological father, the first time I met him, I was about 15 years old. Okay. We have an amazing relationship now. I love him a great deal. We rekindled that relationship and I'm happy about that. But, being that young of an age person, starting working for things like that when I wanted to, I always wondered what my dad went and did in his life. And so my dad went and ran an oil sands business for 20 plus years of his life, right from almost when I was born up until, when I was close to 20. And so the idea of having my own business, I probably came from that, just knowing my father was an entrepreneur himself. And he did, big business in Alberta for years and years and years. And I just knew maybe that was a part of what I had in me. And so, once I started my business, I kind of just, everything's been hard in my life lots of times, man. Whether it's sports that I did for the first time, whether it's, relationships, whether it's, school, whatever it is, man, everything's been hard in my life. I've just never been gifted at anything. But I don't know what it was. Business was just easy to me. Building relationships in certain ways for business was easy to me. To be creative and to be expressive, it just came easy. And I'm not saying that I didn't work my ass off because that's anybody who knows me knows I'll put in the work. But eventually I found my passion. I found what I was good at and I didn't have to break my back trying to become good at it. I had it in me, whatever it was. And since I started my business actually like legit full time, it's been 5 years, just over 5 years. So my business is Limitless Gear Clothing, a lifestyle brand. Initially, I started it out of the trunk of my car about 8.5 years ago, but nothing was ever, official out of the trunk of the car. And I started selling t-shirts out of the trunk of my car, meeting buddies at gas stations, parking lots, fast food restaurants. And I would always share the message that I truly do believe life is what we make of it. Life is limitless. People have limitless potential inside themselves. It just takes a few factors to really click in eventually. And I remember people kind of just laughing at my idea of, creating my own clothing brand in the first place. And that's okay. But, 8.5 years later from actually starting the idea, the concept, I'm having a hard time keeping up with my business as is. There's not enough hours in the day, and that's an amazing feeling. Yeah.
Do you think that because everything was hard for you, you said growing up, nothing came easy. Do you think that kind of built your capacity to handle hard things? So then when you started your business, it seemed easy?
Yeah, I'll be honest. You
already had this built up?
Yeah. I think it did. Yeah. Because as your wife knows, your family knows, running a business has its ups and downs. Mm-hmm. It does. It takes hours. It takes commitment. It takes, willingness to not give up, even if things go haywire for a minute. Quite frankly, I do believe, I think that ingrained a different kind of muscle in me for sure. Working even as a young person, 11, 12 years old, I credit my ability to put in the work now because I learned that you have to work when when you want something. Now, I don't want to be the person to say my entire life's been hard. Quite frankly, my mom did the best job that she did. I don't ever want to put her down on that. She, did what she had with what she knew, quite frankly. And my mom, like when she worked at Weyerhaeuser, we had a lot of things. We had a lot of abundance financially if we wanted, some things in life, like whatever, sports, skateboards, whatever, right? Things got harder for sure when she lost her job at Weyerhaeuser. Now, I don't know what my life would be like if she worked at her job for the rest of her life until she was retired, 5 years later. I don't know if I would have ever had a job when I was 11, 12 years old. If I can be honest, though, those are kind of things I want to ingrain in my own kids when they're older. I'm not going to hand you, your first car just because. I want you to work for it. I want you to understand the value of what goes into something that you want. Right. I think that is needed, especially more than ever, to be honest, nowadays, because things aren't just handed to people, right? Like we're fully grown men right now, right? We understand the world isn't going to just toss us, a business account that's, $20,000 that we don't have to work the rest of the month, basically, whatever it is, right? You have to fight and work for the things you want in life, no matter how old you are. I think that's a good life lesson too. I think you appreciate those things a little bit more when you have to work for them too.
How many kids do you have?
We got 2 babies.
2 babies.
2.5 old lady, and then we got just over a 1-year-old lady. Yeah. So we're in the thick of things on that
too. Yeah. That's wild.
Yeah.
That's wild.
It's great though, man. I love my girls. I always thought of the day that I was going to try to be the best dad that I possibly could the day if I was able to have kids, if I could have kids. Like when I was 18 years old, man, I went to a treatment center, part of my drinking and driving accident. I don't know if you know about that. We can talk more about that after, but I remember becoming good friends with a northern man that, everyone wrote each other notes, like a goodbye note at the end of our 3 weeks. And his note, because every time we'd go have smoke breaks out together or whatever out in the yard, I must have told him that, one day I wanted to have a family here. Because about a year ago, right around the time we had our second girl, I found this little note in this old duotane that I had from this treatment center. And it said, "Hey, man, basically it was a pleasure to get to meet you. Cool getting to know you, whatever. I know one day you'll find a family that will love you and you'll have your own one day." And I remember a flashback when I found that little note, like over a year ago, that I must have been telling them when I was even 18, 19 years old, like one day I want to be a family. And I get to live that dream and the dream of my business too. And so, very recently, my wife, of course, was just coming off mat leave. And a couple of weeks before she was getting off mat leave, we were both a little anxious how our life was going to change up a little bit again. And so I asked her, what do you think about possibly stepping down to casual? Because she's an ICU nurse, actually. And so I knew she was getting a little heavier as time was coming closer to go back to work because it's a lot of stress. Being a nurse it's a tough gig. 12-hour days, nights, weekends. It can be tough on the family too. And so I knew this, and I also knew how anxious I was feeling about maybe not being able to continue working as hard as I get to on the business too, and speaking and traveling for things like that. So I asked her if she ever considered being maybe more or less a casual person, like at work, like a casual nurse. Very hesitant at first, both of us, because I knew pressure would be on me more financially. I knew, she'd be with the kids a little bit more, so I'd be probably less taking care of things as much as I could financially while she took care of our kids. And she went back to work like the first week, and she's like, are we still talking about this at all? I was like, let's do it.
Yeah.
And that's been a couple months, man. And I've definitely seen things uptake in the business side of things,
right,
because I've had to, partially there's been pressure on me to make sure those things happen. But at the same time, my wife gets to be at home with our girls, that I know, even though times can be tiring, stressful at times, I know that's one of her favorite places. It's one of mine too.
Yeah.
But to be able to get to do that with your wife, to have that partnership, that collaboration of, I'll take care of this as much as I can. If you want to take care of what you got to take care of as much as you can, that's where we're at right now with our family and kids. So it's pretty great feeling on that part.
I think we have pretty similar values in that way, because that's one of our, like, we want Demi to be at home. We want to raise our kids fully.
Yeah.
However many we end up having.
Yeah.
We just want to be the main influences in their life and have the option to do that.
Yeah.
We're not sure about homeschool or not, or whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
We just want to be the main influence in their life. We want to create their values, their, make sure they are strong, and can help serve the world.
I love that.
It's hard, especially now with the economy. You need either one big income or two, and a lot of times, even for me growing up, we had a big family, single mom.
Yeah.
So I never see my mom.
Yeah.
And I don't want that.
Yeah.
Or, and same as you, like my mom's like one of the strongest people I know.
Yeah.
Because she just did what she had to do.
Yeah.
In the situation she was given.
Yeah.
But having that and like now being able to build off that and, navigate a little bit differently, and I just want to make it a little bit easier.
Yeah.
In that way, but also, you got to make them fail too. You got to let them fall down.
Yeah.
Build those skills. Work hard. It doesn't necessarily have to be. This is a conversation I have with people too. Is like hard work doesn't have to be a job necessarily.
Yeah.
You can work hard at things, other things. Could work hard here. Could work hard at something that you love doing. It doesn't necessarily have to be a 9-to-5 job.
Yeah.
There's other ways to work hard.
Yeah.
And build those skills. So that's what we're figuring out. And it's fun.
It is fun, man.
It's so fun.
And I think working hard, man, is just good for the soul, quite frankly. You know what I mean? And I agree with you, man. You can, if you like gardening, you can work hard and garden.
Definitely.
Just
or
sports, boxing, like, you know what I mean? I mean,
full time.
Yeah. I mean, you're constantly pushing your body, you're constantly pushing your physique, your mental capacity when you're doing things like that, right? So, I mean, that's hard as it is too, right? That's one thing I connected with you a little bit in the first place, because I used to take mixed martial arts when I was a kid. It's something I always wanted to get back to a little bit.
Gotta come out.
Yeah.
Come to the gym.
Make the trip, man. Yeah. I'll make the trip.
Throw some hands.
Well, after this one heals up a little bit,
we'll go to the Colonial.
There we
go. But as I guess, you said you're a proud Métis.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
So what has that looked like in your life? Like as a business owner, as a husband, as a father, as even like a teenager growing up, like what did that look like for you?
Well, we were chatting about how you didn't necessarily embrace and, get to know your culture as much as you would have liked to, probably, until you were an adult. I was in the same boat. Yeah. But, I was a youth rep for Métis Nation Saskatchewan when I was, it was like 20, 23, 24, something like that. And I really started attending a lot of conferences, started attending, different things in the Métis world, Batoche a little bit more, stuff like that I never did when I was a kid, right? It wasn't embraced as much as I probably would have liked it to be. My mom just came from a different generation. There's a little bit more racism when she was growing up, when it came to that stuff, just represent your own indigenous culture, unfortunately. But, a good chunk of my family is status First Nations, and a good chunk of my family are Métis, actually. And, to talk about always feeling like you have a place in this world, there's never been one First Nations community, never been one Métis community that I've ever gone to that I didn't feel part of the community. And that's something ingrained into those communities lots of times. And I love that because that's who I get to do a lot of work with most of the time, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, like, I just knew it was always a part of me, to be honest. I knew that was somewhat of my background, some of what my DNA, that culture. I never fed into it a little bit, at all until I was an actual adult. And just everything about, the artwork, the clothing, just knowing Métis people were actually some of the first initial entrepreneurs in, Western Canada. It's pretty cool to know those kind of things with furs and, different things like that. So to know it's ingrained into us to want to carve out our own path in life, I think that's pretty empowering too. And something about that fiddle music, man. It's going. The fiddle music, and then if you've ever gone to a powwow, the drums too. Like it all hits different the moment it starts going.
Do you go to powwows quite often?
I've done a few for sure, for like work wise, like setting up tables and stuff like that, selling some of my gear. Never just kind of more leisure thing, to be honest, but you always get to enjoy it too while you're working, like, so if I'm setting up tables, I love watching the dancing. I love listening to the drums. I love listening to the singing, so that's always been great. I love getting to do that kind of thing. Yeah, it's a beautiful, peaceful way of life, man. I know smudging for me, never did it when I was a kid, never. But it is probably one of my most common rituals that I do in my day-to-day life. So, especially when I go speak publicly somewhere, I always smudge. Like, it's just something I almost need to do now. I smudge and then I ask the creator, please help me with the words I need to help as many people today. Help me be a vessel for as much good as I can possibly be today. And I also thank the creator for all the gifts, all the lessons, all the blessings, my friends and family and everyone else I get to meet in this world. I don't know how that got brought on, but there's something peaceful that it helps me with, to know that I'm hopefully bringing as best energy as I possibly can wherever I go, but also hopefully protecting myself for as much energy as I need to protect myself.
That's really cool.
Yeah. My book too, that's, I'm giving you guys a copy here. I think that it probably started with that a little bit, because there's lots of nights that I was fighting to, be either in a positive thinking way or just have the energy to do it or just declutter my mind. And a friend of mine, Alan, he's one of my best friends, big brother of mine. He just recommended, he's like, do you do smudging or anything like that? Because lots of times it can clear what you need, is what I've been told, is what he told me, if I can remember correctly. So with my book, man, there's nights, plenty of nights in a row that I consistently would go smudge after my family went to bed. And so to hopefully help me bring good energy to the book. And it's something kind of just stuck with me right after that. And definitely don't regret that, habit now. I've had a lot worse. That's for sure.
Do you do sweats?
First time I did a sweat, I was actually in that treatment center I was telling you about. Mm-hmm. That also opened up my eyes to how beautiful that world is, how empowering that is too. Since then, I probably have done a handful. I say like often, I need to go do a sweat. I need to do it more. So that's something that's definitely needs to be put more into my life for sure. It's been a few years, I think, unfortunately, since I did one last.
Right.
I need to change that sometime soon. But
we should go. There's Vernon Linklater.
Okay.
He has one monthly out at Whitecap.
Whitecap. The funny thing is, that's the very first place I went, Whitecap, because it's kind of out in that area. Or sorry, no. I'm getting my places mistaked. Whitecap's by the casino there over there. So I'd love to sometime. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's a good guy too.
Yeah.
He used to be big into boxing and stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
Now he built like a pretty big one. Like it holds 20, 30 people.
Oh.
Yeah, and he just does it monthly.
That's beautiful, man.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Do you go there quite often, or do you go there often?
I've actually haven't went to his yet.
Oh, okay.
But I keep telling him I'm coming. So this is perfect.
Yeah, let's go, man. Yeah.
I've been I go to a men's group every couple weeks, and
cool.
And we're trying to get them to come out too. I think a group of them went once.
Yeah,
it'd be nice to go do more often, and even like that cold plunging.
Yeah,
has been like really good. There's a group here that does it in the river. Winter.
Okay.
And they set up a sauna.
Yeah,
and then they go in the river and then come out, and
I love that.
And that's so amazing too.
Yeah,
it's just like I don't know. It's like a reset.
Yep.
Yep.
Oh, I love that too. Cold plunges. I don't do it also consistently enough, for whatever reason. But every morning that I do it, I hate it before I'm doing it. I hate it while I'm doing it somewhat, but I just love the aftermath after it. Like every time, I know I'd listen to Joe Rogan's podcast like all the time, and he does it daily. I think daily. Yeah. And he says you have to start something with something that's hard. Yeah, and I kind of like that mentality about it, because everything else should be easy, kind of things, right? And a lot of business like coaches and stuff like that will say stuff like that too, and there's something to be said about that. I don't have like a tub or anything like that, like a big tub where I can actually jump into or anything. But what I do is I fill my bathtub with cold water, like right cold. I don't toss the hot on at all, of course. And then I freeze like 6 or so just regular water bottles in the freezer. And then I'll just go toss them in there and let them chill out for like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever, while they're, the water's pouring in. Usually it's first thing in the morning. So my young girls, before we take them to daycare, or if my wife's staying with them the day or whatever it is, they'll come in the bathroom and like count me down and stuff like that to do it, or they'll time me. And then my oldest daughter, just recently, this was last week when I did a cold plunge. She's like, "Daddy, don't go in there. That's cold." I said, "I know, honey, I know, but Daddy's got to do it." You're right. Yeah. Daddy shouldn't do this anymore. Yeah. But yeah, it's funny that we touched base on that. I just started trying to get into it last week again. It's a beautiful thing to do.
Yeah. Especially once it's done.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially once it's done.
It's a good feeling, man.
I wanted to touch on your quote here, though.
Yeah, which one?
Once you believe you have the ability and capacity to do great things, that's when life can become limitless.
Yes, sir.
What does that mean to you?
For me, a lot of the big failures, or maybe not failures, I should say, a lot of the things that maybe could have gone differently in my life came from a place of fear lots of times. So me not trying a lot of things because fear kind of won in the past made me start to realize that, I can't be fearful of taking on big challenges, new tasks anymore, because I definitely know on the other side of taking things on like that is a lot of beauty, but a big thing of it was a lack of confidence majority of my life, like up until like fairly recent. Like the past couple of years, I've really been stepping into a whole new confident self, person that I'm happy and proud of. It took me a long time into my life to get there, man, but I really love that quote that I came up with, because I really do truly believe, somebody who hears that, they can almost interpret it in their own way, and make it their own, and what meaning they give it. But I do truly believe, if you want to accomplish great things, it has to definitely come from the ability, or the train of thought that you can accomplish great things in the first place, right? So to have the capacity to do great things, to have the abilities to do those great things in the first place, you have to have that belief before you even start a little bit, right? Or before you start really achieving multiple things in a row. Because sometimes you can just start, right? Like we talked about, but you have to have faith that you can actually take this task on. So for me, even public speaking, I was held back in elementary school for having a speech impediment. So the fear of public speaking has been ingrained in me since I was in grade 1 or so. That took a long time to overcome. I've kind of just got to a point now where I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to work, do what I do. This is who I am. But I love to share that quote at the end of pretty much every presentation I give.
Do you still like feel the fear and then you just do it anyways, or has that even gotten less?
That's gone less.
Yeah.
But I think there's always a little bit of that for me. But like it almost has transferred into excitement more now than just fear. It's like I start vibrating before I go speak, like in a good way. Like before it used to be like my stomach is sinking, you know what I mean? Like my chest feels like it's sinking because I'm like so, almost like getting pretty like, afraid of doing this, like the anxiety's hidden, whatever it is. But like, even today I spoke in Regina, this morning for Ranchero Society, 200 plus people there. The lady who was one of the directors who brought me in, she looked at me, she's like, so you nervous? I was like, I'm excited. Let's do it. Yeah. I was like shaking in not like a nervous, scared way, but like an excited way, like a kid at Christmas kind of way. And that took me a long time to get to that point. Yeah. But it's also a new addiction for me too, that I've had for a few years, I should say.
Yeah. I think once you get good at something too, like you get a little bit of confidence, and then it just feels more natural too.
Yeah.
Like I always compare it to like driving. When you first start driving, everything's happening so fast.
Yeah.
You're like looking everywhere. And then like a couple years down the road, you're just slouched.
Yeah.
Music's blasted. Probably texting,
Not if anybody legally is supposed to, yeah.
But it's just like, it's so easy.
Yeah.
But at first, it's like scary.
Yeah. But anything new, right? Like anything human beings do for the first time up until it becomes somewhat of a habit. Human beings almost don't like change, right? I almost feel like I'm the opposite on that. I love change lots of times. Besides my family, keeping my family for life, but like everything else can always change. I'm cool with change, but that's not easy to be, easy going with, whether it's a job, career, business, whatever it is. Change is hard for a lot of people, for sure.
All right. And then this other quote you sent me, Ed Milet.
Yeah.
He's the man.
He's the man. He's the man.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah.
You are most qualified to help the person you used to be.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that, man. Because I used to battle part of my confidence then. I think that's why I love this quote so much. I heard it on his podcast like a year ago, at least, maybe a year and a half ago or so. You're the most qualified to help who, you used to be. I think why I love that so much is because, when I would go speak at a school or just a community or something like that, lots of times I would battle internally. Like, what value do I have to bring to these people? I don't have a doctorate degree in psychology. I don't have a social worker degree. I used to really be hard on myself because I didn't have proof of what I was teaching, And at one point, it just clicked in me. Maybe it was enough people saying, like, your lived experiences are valuable. We need these. Maybe enough elders telling me, enough people telling me these things. I just realized, like, I don't come to go speak just for money. It's what I get to do. I'm thankful for that. But I 110% come because I believe I'm making a difference in people's lives. And I could have chose to do anything in my life that would be different to do that. but knowing that I come with genuine intention because I know what I'm talking about when it comes to mental health and addictions. Maybe not on an academia side, but from lived experiences. I know what kind of trauma, what kind of pain, what kind of hell somebody can go through when they beg to the sky to not have this power to be over them anymore. Because that was me, years ago. Like I used to beg in the middle of the morning when I'm coming off of a high. Like when the heck am I going to be able to stand strong by myself without this stuff anymore? And I used to say out loud, like, as soon as I get off of this stuff, as soon as I get away from this stuff, I'm gonna make a difference with other people. And I remember like hitting some rock bottoms with that. A lot of it was cocaine. Quite frankly, like multiple days in a row, 2-3 days. I just remember thinking to myself, like, I know what a person living through hell looks like. And I just told myself that one day I was going to try to add value to people, to maybe think differently, act differently, whatever it was. But even when I started that journey of speaking, I really like lacked the confidence of like knowing I had the ability to do that, even though I was doing my best. And then I realized, I lived through these experiences every time I go share my story, every single time. Somebody comes up to me and says it was relatable, or people need to hear this, or whatever it was. And I just realized right there, my story is relatable because a lot of people need to hear it, or a lot of people know somebody who's gone through something similar. And I just realized right then and there, I don't have a degree to share that I can do this, but I have these lived experiences that mean a whole lot to me to be able to do this for people. I think you can just tell how emotional I can get when I start talking about this stuff, man. Yeah. I don't think there's a single soul in this world that will ever tell anybody different that I'm not passionate about what I do. Because I've been on the other side of it. I know what it looks like to want to take your own life because things aren't great. And, to talk about doing anything else in my life, it was a few months ago. A banking company, they gave me a call. This guy I know that works in this bank, and he asked, "Hey, Cody, have you ever thought about being a commercial banker?" I said, "No, not necessarily, man." He said, "Well, we're looking for somebody. We know you got great, relationship skills. You know how to build a business. You got a lot of great assets, basically." He said, with a lot of bonuses, hard work and some time, probably make 150 to 200 grand a year with bonuses and stuff. I was like, that's great, man. But like, I don't even use a spreadsheet for my own business. And then 3 weeks prior to that, I had a phone call with folks asking me if I wanted to run for a certain party to be an MLA. I said, well, that's quite the honor to get asked that. But I don't think my heart would be in that, because I know where my heart lies right now. And that's getting to go speak in front of people, maybe go do some workshops for people. Because I wouldn't do it if I didn't believe it didn't make a difference.
Did you have like an aha moment where it was like, I need to be speaking? Was there like a time when you remember? Was it like a speaker you heard, or like a situation that kind of was like, I need to be doing that?
So initially when I started speaking publicly, it was like close to like 10 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Dang.
But back then it was like 2, maybe 3 presentations a year. Okay. So like I almost, it's hard for me to consider that's when I started, because you could only do like anything 2 to 3 times a year, and it wouldn't feel like, you've done it for 10 years. You know what I mean? Like if I swung golf balls for the first time today, I wouldn't call myself a golfer. Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. But when
I know exactly what you mean.
But when I actually started my business, like full time, when I left the trades life, and I said, I'm going to go start my own retail store, open up my store for my brand Limitless, see what happens in PA. Prior to me opening up my store, I started thinking what it could also be like if I started doing this, more on a professional side of things, or more of doing it actually for trying to earn an income, but also do this consistently because I love doing it, Right. So like that was the first time for me kind of branching out my own when I first started my business. So I approached schools at that time. I did, years ago. I asked the principal here, I asked the principal there, and I think it was Pacey High School was one of the first schools to give me kind of a shot for like to come speak in front of a group. I just remember being super fired up about it. And right how I was fired up about it was like, okay, this is what I need to do. So like it was that first engagement, the fear and everything was flooding over me. But I was like, this is what I'm going to continue to step into. But I did fall in love with it at the same time when I first started doing those presentations, 8, 9, 10 years ago in the first place, for a program that actually helped save my life. So this program, me and my buddy who was in the car crash with me, years ago, we started speaking for this program called the Party Program. And so they have all day events where they have like fake car crashes, mock-ups of like, people getting injured and stuff like that. They take kids to morgues, you know what I mean? Like it's kind of like a big awakening of what could happen if you drink and drive or if you, whatever. And they asked my buddy Regan if he wanted to share his story in the first place. And then his family's always been great with me no matter what since. And I think they were, partly in asking me if I wanted to be a part of that, sharing our story. And like, I just remember, not being pretty sights, like just all in tears. So the trauma was just so raw and, probably snot bubbles and just not pretty. We played a 4 to 5 minute slideshow, answered a couple questions at the end. But what I think really meant the world to know that this has to be maybe somewhere in my life at some point, was like the kids coming up to us at the end of the presentation saying, I appreciate you sharing your story because I could relate with you because my brother went through this, my cousin went through this, my dad, my mom, or I'm going through this, I'm really feeding into my addictions right now. And this is what I needed to hear. It was like that stuff on a continuous basis, the 2 or 3 times we went and spoke. And I was like, man, this is amazing. And then it was just eventually when I started my business, running into different people who did this for a career, it was just like my eyes started to open up. So like one of my best friends now is my buddy Alan Kaler, who we're doing this event together in Saskatoon, May 29th. He's became somebody who's shown me what's really possible in the speaking world, that this isn't just some weekend hobby that you can do once in a while. This is something you can do to take care of your family. This is something you can do to take care of many other people in this world. And he's an international speaker. So, I think this past week, he was just on a phone call with some folks in the Middle East to possibly go speak for them. Incredible, Yeah. To see what's possible, you almost need to see what's possible before you almost can kind of take things on sometimes too a little bit. So to know that it wasn't just only schools and one classroom at a time that was possible, I think made a big difference when I got introduced to my buddy Alan too. Yeah.
It's like such a powerful thing. I know one of my like personally my favorite speakers is John Maxwell.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen him speak?
Just some clips and stuff like that. But I've heard him speak on people's like podcasts, like Ed Milet's, and like, man, that guy's a master communicator for sure.
He's so good.
Yeah.
And because one of the things he talked about is like being able to pass on knowledge, but then like the power of it getting so big is then you get to choose, who's in those rooms.
Yeah.
Like for him, he does public speaking, but he doesn't do it like, he's not building his name anymore.
Yeah.
Now he has the option to, he's in the leadership business.
Yeah.
To be in rooms where there's going to be leaders there who are going to pass on what he's teaching.
Yeah.
And now it's going to be exponential instead of going to a place where maybe one person takes what he said.
Yeah.
That's
huge.
And, and that's where like you can get to that level and grow to that size where now it's like, he just wants to communicate to other leaders right now.
Yeah.
And the stuff that he does online is all just free. Yeah. He just does that for free, where anyone can do that. And then if he's going to make an appearance, and it's like, that's like a cool way to look at it as well. You know, to like, instead of throwing things everywhere and seeing what sticks, the people that go to him are going to pass it on.
Be precise about where you put yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And get to that size is kind of cool as well. Yeah. Just like different ways of like looking at it.
Yeah. No, that's very cool to, for you to pinpoint on that. I like that. I love that, actually. And you know what, man, I've spoke over publicly now probably over 300 times ish, that's probably including the times back like 8, 9, 10 years ago when it was like 2-3 times a year. So like, it's hard, like, you do anything 2 to 3 times a year, it's hard to ever be proficient at anything, right? But the last, like, when I really stepped into this was like the last 5 years, where like, if somebody asked me, it's not out of my comfort zone to go say, or contemplate it. Like when people were asking me to come speak at the party program, like that was like, we just did one maybe like, last year, the year before or something like that. And it was like 6 months later or whatever, when they kind of do these planned events, it was like very spaced in between each other. And so, like when I really stepped into it, it was, you could definitely see the progression of things, like even being better speaking, even being better at communicating. And now, like today was like the 10th presentation I gave in the last 2 weeks. And that's crazy to me, because like it took me
exciting,
like, it's very exciting. Yeah. But it took me like 2 to 3 years to even do 10 in the first place. Right. That's why it's hard for me to say I've been speaking since, for 10 years or so. But to talk about, to be putting yourself in a specific place, I think that's one of the kind of cool ideas actually behind hosting this event where me and my buddy are hosting. Like, so about a year ago, me and my buddy Alan started talking to each other about like, what would it look like to host our own event instead of getting asked to come speak for a company, instead of getting asked to come speak for a high school. Back then, I'll be honest, fear kind of overwhelmed me on ever thinking of that. But I also told him, like, I've been working on my book, I think it would be cool to have my book done before we actually revisit this. And, a year and a half later, my book comes out, and his book literally just came out around the same-ish time, a few months after. And we're like, okay, well, let's start putting this together now. And so we hosted our very first event together in Prince Albert, where we sold tickets for $30 a pop. Tickets were available on my website, Cody Demerais, my speaking website. And the fear of not knowing who was going to come, of who's going to buy a ticket, if anybody was going to be there, that was another stepping into a unknown fear thing, right? Of like, I kind of know this is what I got to do because of how afraid I am of it. But the first event went amazing, man. We had close to 60-ish people that came out of a room of could have fit 168, but close to 60-ish people that came to an event to want to hear these messages of lived experiences, life lessons. And part of the deal is that each person got a book of mine and a book of Alan's. So our books alone is $20 each, right? Normally, but they had to spend 30, and we had a lot of people get sponsored tickets actually. So there's one gentleman that was a young man. He runs a business in PA. His name's Tavin Thompson. He seen me at the gym. He's like, I think I'd like to help out with that, whatever I got to do. So he ended up sponsoring, I do believe it was 10 tickets. Just a young man that's like 21, just kind of believes in that, that world, that more messages like this need to be shared and people need to be able to go. So like this young man, 21, man, I can't even imagine what I was doing at 21 at that time. Yeah. Not what this young man's doing.
Me too.
Yeah. So that's a great thing. And then another gentleman, Daryl Blay, very, very nice man. I think it was a couple months before this event kind of got public. He came up to me at the gym one day and he said, "Hey, you're Cody Demerais, hey?" I said, "Yeah, man, I am. What's going on?" He's like, just want to tell you what I think you're doing is pretty cool. It's pretty amazing. You're going to go share your story. You're helping people out mentally. And he shared a very emotional situation that he just lost a good friend of his, a family member due to suicide, unfortunately. And that was, very fresh in his life. And we exchanged, words. We exchanged, just conversations. We exchanged tears in the middle of the gym, gave him a big hug. You know, was it like a week later? I think maybe 2 weeks later, we went for breakfast because I just wanted to buy the guy lunch, or whatever it was. He's just a good dude. And he said he wanted to help out with the event, but we went to go have lunch, and I didn't ask him about helping out with the event, whatever, because quite frankly, I didn't care. I just wanted to go take the guy out for lunch, or breakfast, whatever we did. And I think it was like the next day or something like that, where I see a big post that he posted up about him buying, 25 tickets to sponsor 25 people to go and listen to us speak. And I seen like my phone, my website, and said, yeah, 25 tickets purchased by Daryl. I was like, wow. So like half the people that were at our event together basically had a ticket paid for them, which was pretty amazing. So, instead of going from like, whatever fear we had a good chunk of people that were there, and a couple of great souls helped them get there. Because one of the things that really stood out to me is that Daryl actually heard Alan speak a few years ago when he was in the trades. And he said it actually helped change his life around for the better. Like he got into business for himself, being a financial man. And it just made him think that, like, whatever he was doing at that time, maybe it wasn't what he wants to do or needed to do anymore. It got him thinking differently. And he said the company that he worked for at the time are the people who brought Alan in. So it's not like he went out of his way to go listen to him. But he said it also altered his life. So him being able to possibly do that for other people was a big motivator for him. And so that story is incredible,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You think about these guys that you're able to help out there, and I guess with mental health too. What do you think of like the communities, like to allow men to be more like vulnerable, talk, things like that? Do you think there's enough, or do you think it's growing at a good pace?
I think it's growing at a good pace.
Yeah.
I think years ago, if you're a man and you felt emotion, you'd be looked down upon for sure. But I think there's a lot of people.
I still feel that way.
Yeah.
Like in my head.
Yeah.
I still feel like this guy's being too emotional.
Yeah. That's fair.
It's just like it just comes up.
Yeah.
And it's like a natural feeling.
Yeah.
That, and like I know that it's like it's fine.
Yeah.
But it's just like in there. It's in me from how I grew up, how I was raised. So it's interesting.
It's wiring, man. It's something that's been ingrained into us for all our lives. Doesn't change overnight. That's for damn sure. Even myself, like I used to be a person that didn't like. I would hide emotions. I would hide how I felt. I would hide, any pain that I was going through. I would put a big fake smile on my face and drink another beer, or snort some drugs. To be honest, and I would hide it all. Wasn't feeling great emotionally, well, I'd go smoke, some cigarettes. I always found a way to mask things. And then for me personally, it's not for everyone, but for me, my pressure just built up over enough time doing that. I always like to use the analogy when I go speak lots of times. It's like a pop can, you shake it, you twist it, you throw it around or whatever. And when you go to crack it, it has one thing to do. Pop, right? Explode. And for me, I had enough recurrent moments where that built up, pented up energy just popped enough times where like I would go off the rails and I'd go crazy for a day or two or three or whatever it is, go on benders and whatever it is. I just realized like I have to do something different, plain simple. Not everyone's that way, right? had different wiring myself, right? Addictions were huge for me back then. And so I fed into those things that were wired into me. I would hide it with my substances. Now I'm very proud to say, like it's been at least 6 years since I've touched hard drugs. Damn, that feels like good to just embrace that. For drinking's not really a problem for me at all anymore. Like I could go technically have a beer like right now and be fine with it. But quite frankly, I'm pretty driven. I'm pretty ambitious where like I don't even kind of want to drink at all because like I'm just like I know if I drink I might be like slow mentally or like ambitious wise for like a couple days. So I just don't like to drink often ever. Yeah. Like the last time I drank was last summer on an annual guys fishing trip I go on. Right. A year before that, it was the same trip for like a bachelor party. And I think before that, it was like my wedding the year before that or something like that, or months before that, whatever. So like I'm not a big drinker at all.
You're kind of in like a situation now where alcohol is just like a non-factor.
It's not, yeah.
You just don't think about it.
Yeah.
It's not part of, if it happens, it'll be random.
Yeah.
Or like a celebration, something like that. And it's just not something that is on your mind ever.
It's like at all.
And that's powerful.
I appreciate that, man.
Yeah. I know, obviously everyone's at different levels, different capacities, different. And, some people, they've been years sober, but they still think about it every single day.
Yeah.
And like, it's hard for me to relate. Like I've never had addiction struggles, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So sometimes it is hard for me to relate. But like I try to like, how would that feel? You know, like just every day you're thinking about it.
Yeah.
That'd be so tough.
It would be, man. To think about something every day that like like isn't going to necessarily give you the best,
Yeah. It might send you into a downward whatever for weeks, months, who knows.
Yeah. And so, I have a lot of friends, man, that have been sober, 10, 15 years, 8 years, 7 years, 6 years. And I have nothing but high respect for every one of those individuals. They know it didn't work for them. They cut it out. Boom. Life changed for the better. I've never once had somebody say that they quit drinking 5 years ago is like the biggest mistake of their life. Right. I've never once heard that. Never once heard that. Right? Does that make sense?
Life went downhill.
Yeah. Life got terrible, man. But like, right? Have you ever heard somebody say that? Yeah. There's something to be said about that, though, right? But I'm also on the other side of things when I talk about maybe harm reduction, right? So some people said, like, ask me, how long have you been sober for? Well, quite frankly, I just live life to like full capacity where like it's not a train of thought, and that's okay. Right. But like if I go on a fishing trip this upcoming summer with a few friends and I'm not working, and also my kids are, taking care of with their mom, whatever they're doing, maybe I might have one or two. Like I'm not afraid of that. You know what I mean? I'm not saying other people are afraid of it. I'm just saying they know their boundaries that they need to set. Mm-hmm. Quite frankly, I know where I'm okay with in my life now. Like I don't have anything that angers me or upsets me about the way my life is anymore. And I feel like that was a big part of like why I drank and why I drugged so hard. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not a guy that would go drink beers on every Friday night. It's because I know my salary is going to be a little slow.
Right.
But like that fishing trip, I'm also not saying that I'm not going to touch anything from it. And now I walk a very weird line where I'm almost by myself, what I feel like sometimes, unfortunately, with that way of life, right? That mindset about that. Because a lot of people who I consider like some of my best friends really don't want to touch that stuff. And I have nothing but, like I said, love and appreciation for that. But also when it comes to like being a part of the guys or whatever, and you want to go out and have beers with each other on a Friday night in buddy's garage, I'm also not in that realm either, which is weird. I just walk my own path on that one. And so it doesn't happen often. Normally you're on either side of it, seems like. Yeah.
And it's interesting that you bring that up because I've had this conversation with a lot of different people.
Yeah.
And it's always kind of different.
Yeah.
But I think in your situation, I think the power of the work you've put into yourself, you know, the self-development, the growth, as well as you seem pretty aware, you know, like self-awareness is higher than most. So I feel like you understand that you're not the person you were 10 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, you're not in the position, you're not, you know, you're a family man now.
Yeah.
You're out helping, you have purpose. Yeah. You have all these things that 10 years ago you didn't have.
Yeah.
So you're not looking to forget things. You're not looking to, you know, so I think you're just not in the position you were in.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people don't have that awareness. So even though it's been 10 years and they also might have families and they might also have purpose with a job or a career or whatever, they still look at themselves as that person 10 years ago. Yeah. Like, I can't drink, I'll go on a bender. Yeah. And it's like they just haven't had the self-awareness to realize they're not that person. Yeah. You know? Or they also have awareness and they know that they will be that person. Yeah. Even though 10 years has passed. Yeah. You know? Yeah. So it's like everyone's just different, right? Everyone's and there's no right or wrong. Yeah. Everyone's capacity is different, their ability to handle, their awareness. And if it works for you, it's good.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that, man. I really appreciate your words of wisdom on that one. And you know, like, it took me a long time to feel okay with, like, can I have a beer? Like, would people look down upon me if I did? And like, that was a part of it for a while. And then, you know, when I did have a beer, it's like, oh, you know, I could go for another one, but I'm like, you know, I'm okay now. Like, I remember, like, coming home from that fishing trip last year, I had a drink with my wife on the deck at the lake. I left it at that. Yeah, that was a year ago, before we had our second girl, I think it was, you know. And I also am at a different point in my life when it comes to my kids. So for me, I think the only time that I'll maybe give myself that, you know, if I want to go have a drink or so, is most likely actually not going to really be in front of my kids. That's just something I kind of want for them. Yeah. So like, I'm not going to be drunk in front of my kids. Like, I can say that easily. I want to be who I can be for them. Right. And I'm not saying other people can't. I'm just saying for myself personally, what I want. I don't want to be stumbling in front of my kids. I don't want to be, you know, slurring words if that ever were to be that case. So like, on a fishing trip, when I'm out with 10 buddies fishing, maybe I'll have a few. When I come home and I'm watching my kids, it's not me prioritizing that stuff over being with them. And so I'm also walking that line too, where, you know, I've seen different, right? Yeah.
It's like I remember at my cousin's wedding, one of my family members who hadn't drank for a long time, and he drank, and I remember his daughter just kept asking him, why are you acting like that? Like, she'd never seen her dad like that before. Yeah. And that, like, stuck with me. Yeah. And she just kept asking, why are you acting like that? What are you doing? And she was, like, so confused. Yeah. Because he was slurring. He was kind of goofy. And I remember, like, that sucks.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. That's a powerful story, man. Yeah. And that just reinforces what I don't want from my kids. Mm-hmm. Everyone's got their own path to walk, man. But, you know, like you said, fishing trip with me and 10 buddies. Yeah. Maybe I can have a few. I'll be okay. I'll be fine. I'm not going to go do something careless and reckless. I know that about myself now, because I know what I need to come back to and be who I need to be when I come back. Right. So a lot of people who've been in the programs like AA and stuff like that probably wouldn't like me to say that, being a mental health and addictions advocate. But at the same time, I've done, like we've talked about, a lot of work for myself. Yeah. Also, my priorities are a lot different than they used to be. Like you said, things change over time.
And I believe you, like you said, like Ed Milet said, you know, like, you want to be the person, you know, that could have helped you. Yeah. You know, so and everybody is different. Yeah. You know, so the people that can relate to you, they're going to come get you to help them out.
Yeah.
And if they don't like that, they can go to someone else, get your own values, Everyone's
got their own path.
Everyone has their own path, their own values, and nothing has to be right or wrong.
Yeah.
It's just tools in the tool belt.
Yeah.
And if you don't want that one, that's fine.
Yeah.
So we're at about an hour here, so
cool, man.
I think we can call it.
Yeah.
But thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me, buddy.
Yeah, you're a great person to talk to and learn from. I can tell that you mean everything you're saying, and it's coming from experience, which is way better than school. So, in my opinion, like I always look for experience. And it's when I'm looking at mentorship, when I'm looking at getting for help, like I always look at, have they done it? Are they doing it? And I believe you are doing it. You have done it. You're maybe not where you want to be, but you're headed there.
Appreciate that.
And I can tell that right away. So
appreciate that, man. And don't get me wrong. I don't want to, neglect people with degrees and stuff, because I think everyone needs to have their own place in this world too, and everyone has their tools that they bring to the table. I bring different tools compared to somebody else that brings to the table. But I appreciate you having me. And the day we connected at where was it, in Saskatoon here, right?
Yeah.
At the Indigenous gathering.
Yeah. Prairie Land.
Yeah, Prairie Land. I knew, I was like, okay. That guy was kind of chill. I was like, me and him are gonna chat some more. I knew that.
If anything, I'm chill.
Yeah,
that is true.
No, man, I knew right away this is a good dude too. I did. I promise you that. And so I knew. It's very funny that you asked me. Like, come check out our shop sometime. Be chill. I'll show you around. I was like, I was excited for it, and then literally, I think you just messaged me about coming by and doing a podcast, right? Like this week.
Yeah.
I was like,
just a couple days ago.
Yeah. I was like, man, I'm actually on the road and this is going to work out. Let's do this. And like, like the timing from everything that happened, I literally dropped off some posters for this event we got coming up at another person's house here 25 minutes before I showed up here. And when you said, hey, man, stop by anytime, like I'll show you the shop before we close up even, I was like on my way, man. Like I literally was on my way. Like it doesn't get better timing than that. And I made a lot of stops along the way for me to be here this week. Like I was in Regina this morning, Moose Jaw after that, stopped by a couple of places after that, for posters and gas and whatnot. And like, to arrive here 25 minutes before, this, like, can't ask for better timing, man.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everything works out.
It works out.
It works out.
It works out. It's meant to be, buddy.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming, and hopefully we can do this again and again and again.
Yes, sir. And I'm going to have you on mine too, man.
Right on.
Whenever I get that rolling too, brother.
Perfect. Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Well, thanks again.
Thanks, man.